I'm Roland Freudenstein, Policy Director of the Martin Center in Brussels, the think tank of the European People's Party. So thank you for having me. It's great to see so many long-standing friends and colleagues. And for lack of time, let me just come to one proposal and a question. And the proposal goes back to what David McAllister said about the 3 Cs, which was basically a rephrasing of the description in the strategic outlook of the European Commission in 2019 about the relations with China, saying China is a partner, it is an economic competitor, and it's a systemic rival. And I have this modest proposal to change the syntax of this and see whether we can maybe get some kind of cross-channel and maybe even a transatlantic agreement on this. By saying China is a systemic rival with whom we need to cooperate on some areas, such as climate change, such as the rules-based international order, and compete in economics and trade. I think, and that the syntactic change creates a hierarchy in these 3 terms and makes it, in my view, easier to handle this. Because as another member of the European Parliament, Mr. Bütikofer, chairman of the China delegation, said, you can't be a competitor on Monday, a partner on Tuesday, and a strategic rival on Wednesday. So that what I'm proposing is a hierarchy, and I wanted to test your views on this. And the second, very briefly, a question. And honestly, it's a question. I've so often encountered Chinese in debates, and it is difficult enough to debate, but one recurrent leitmotif of the Chinese in debating with Westerners is hypocrisy. Anyone who discusses with Chinese regularly knows the pattern. And one particular hypocrisy accusation about Hong Kong concerns Great Britain. And this is a question to Tom Tugendhat and my other British colleagues here tonight, is how would you answer this Chinese argument that, oh, Britain cares about the human and civic rights of Hong Kongers today, but until 1997, they were colonial subjects and didn't have any civic rights worth mentioning. Now, I know that's not entirely true, but the element of hypocrisy that is contained in this historical sequence merits at least some consideration, I think. And really, I'm not making the case for the Chinese. I'm not asking for a friend. I'm asking for my own future debates with Chinese representatives.
Well, I only have 2 minutes, but as always, it's good to listen to what Roland Freudenstein has to tell us, because he is the head of the think tank of the EPP, and we are just the warriors of the EPP on the ground. Roland, you're right. From now on, I will mention the C's in the other order. So first of all, we need to confront, and then we need to compete, and then we need to cooperate. But we all know what's at stake. And as I said, EU-China relations are the most complicated ones I see, and there's no simple answer, and we need to carefully advance. But I want to just make one point about competition. Competition, and here Christian Democrats from continental Europe and conservatives from the UK will agree, competition isn't bad, it's actually good. But as long as the rules are the same for the involved parties. And what we have seen for many years now is that China has been taking advantage of the fact that we play by an established set of rules. But due to the dilution between the market and the state, they have been bending the rules our companies abide by. And this is what the cooperation agreement with China is also about. So China will be high on our agenda, and I can only agree that this is not only a matter for the UK and the EU, this is about real cooperation of like-minded Western democracies. And that's why we need to get our Northern American partners on board. The United States need to lead, but it's also important that we support Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, India, and others. And we should also identify democracies in Southern America, in Latin America, and in Africa to really make this a global issue.
Thank you very much, David. Tom. The floor is yours.
Yeah, look, I learned many languages over the time that I was at school and university, but I've learned a new one in politics, and it has many irregular verbs. And I understand realpolitik. You are expedient. He is a hypocrite. Seems to be one of those irregular verbs. And I find myself thinking about the question about administration in Hong Kong at various points, and thinking about it more as a directional issue than as a substantive one. It is certainly true that all colonial powers have at various points been rather more assertive in their governance structures than democracies. Of course, that's true. But the direction is, I think, what matters. And what we have seen in the last 20 years is the direction going in reverse. And that's what's concerning. And I think that's what's concerning many people in Hong Kong. And if you want to see proof of that, just simply look at the applications, BNO, British nationals overseas, applying for residency in the United Kingdom. The numbers are very high, and people, as we all know, vote with their feet. Now, the question that Ivan raised about Iran and Russia, look, is entirely valid, and cooperation between our countries across what are now called the Short Straits, but used to be called the English Channel or La Manche, depending on who you were, have become questions for many of us. And I think it's worth remembering that for all of the fraught and not always polite conversations over the last 4 years, Britain's closest military alliance is actually with France. We share so much with the French. We have integrated units, combined joint expeditionary task force. We have pilots flying each other's planes, generals commanding each other's troops. We have an incredibly close relationship. And though we don't often talk about it, one of our closest intelligence partnerships is with Germany. And it's certainly true that the relationship has been difficult and no doubt will be difficult as we find a new way to work together. But the truth is we are very, very close. And countries like Russia and Iran that have sometimes tried to play us apart, I think will rapidly find that though brothers may argue very, very loudly, when outside